Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. His name is Robert Prash. Mr. Robert, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Robert. Firstly, you are a coach. You are also a podcast host. Can you please, sir, discuss more about yourself and how you're doing currently now, sir?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, I started off down a very bad road in my life, and early on was into a lot of mischief, and it led me down to drinking, and drugs, and crime, and I became a very nasty person. Fortunately for me, I was I was able to see the light through hitting rock bottom. I was in some very dark places physically, spiritually, and emotionally. But fortunately for me, I came across some life changing material, and I've taken that material and really ran with it. And that was meditation, breath work, yoga. I learned a lot about Buddhism and Christianity. And through these pursuits, a lot better, manage my thoughts, manage my behaviors. And when I got to a place where I'm at now of peace, joy, happiness, and contentment, I found that the answers were very simple. And I really wanted to share it with everyone that I knew because I seen so much suffering in the world. And that's why I started the podcast and that's why I started the coaching business to share all of these techniques, tools.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. And with this experience you've had, have you tried to write a book? And are you also planning to write more in the coming future, Mr. Roberts?
Easy and natural for me to talk. I'm a natural speaker. So just to share the wisdom that I have through voice was very easy, but to write down your thoughts and articulate it in a way that you hope is profound for the reader, it's very difficult. But yes, that is a project that I'm working on.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts. And I would like to also go to the point of spirituality, sir.
Sure.
Spirituality and religion might be something people find, similar. I would like to also try to, help us explain how it also differs within itself. Can you define spirituality, sir? And I do not know, but how do you think it also differ from religion, sir?
Well, oftentimes I think people get hung up on this quite a bit. And I myself have debated this religion versus spirituality topic quite a few times. And ultimately, I've found that religion can turn some people off because it's very strict and very rigid. The laws and rules of most religions do not leave a lot of space for interpretation. And that can turn some people off, although I think it's important to say that I'm a Christian. I do believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. He is my Savior. But there's an openness to that belief. And I think that's the aspect of spirituality that many people turn to is just that openness to interpretation, to search and seek and feel uh, for yourself and find your own way. Ultimately, what I really think is the most important thing here is that we find something. We find something because without a faith, without a belief in something higher, without a connection to the divine part of us, the world, the universe, we tend to fill that hole, so to speak, that incompleteness that we feel, the yearning that we constantly have for something more, which is God, divinity, the universe, the creator, the energy that pervades all things. If we don't find that in our lives, we can go down a very disastrous road. So I think the labels and the judgments need to fall away a little bit. Find your own truth, find your own way. And we don't have to label it spirituality or religion. Whatever you can find that connects you to the divine, that enhances the quality of your life, makes you happier, joyous, and a more complete person. That's the important part.
Yes, I completely agree. Having connection with the higher self really, really works. And a lot of people too could feel disconnected when it comes to spirituality. and they will might also like to begin their spiritual journey, Mr. Roberts. How do you think someone can begin their spiritual journey, especially if they feel disconnected, sir?
Well, I think that it's a very popular feeling nowadays. I think that the world can often make you feel disconnected. And part of me thinks that it is purposeful. I mean, between TV, radio, news, the internet, your friends, your peers, your work groups, your community associations, there can be a lot of influences upon you, a lot of demands for your attention. And that's why I think the very first step is to isolate yourself. I think that we really need to get in tune with ourselves, with who we really are. The best place to do that is in nature. I always feel close to God or with the harmony of the universe when I'm in nature, near trees, plants, and animals. And although I love my fellow human beings and I love being connected to them, when you're going through that period of confusion that you're feeling, it's very beneficial to get alone. Spend some alone time. Isolate yourself. Get away from all the distractions. Get away from all the influences. Get away from all the toxic foods and beverages and substances. Spend some alone time. If you can add some prayer or meditation or breath work to that, especially if you're out in nature, it is my firm belief that you will have some small spiritual awakening and you could begin to build from there and reconnect.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. And there could be also be practices. I know every single person could, have the way they connect, or have a deeper connection when it comes to spirituality. But I don't, I would like to know if you could personally also know, if there is any daily practices you can also recommend for cultivating a deeper spiritual connection, sir.
Yeah, well, I think that is the hard part for people. I think that once it gets time to actually put in some work, you say you're feeling disconnected, you want to get in tune and in touch with something deeper. But when it comes time to put the work, a lot of people shy away. But that is the truth of the matter. We're going to have to do some work. And the first part of that work for me was prayer. Now, I don't want people to get discouraged and think that the prayer has to be specific or think that there is some sort of way that you have to pray. I mean, when I prayed for the very first time, I was an atheist. I didn't believe in anything, but I knew that I had to do something different. My life was going down such a bad road, and I prayed to, I don't know to who. I got on my knees and I just talked about everything that made me sad and angry and upset and frustrated and all my guilts and everything that hurt me. And being able to let all of that go, all that emotion, all that pent up rage and frustration and sadness, and to let it go out into the universe. It was a powerful practice in its own right. So now, although I pray to Jesus Christ, I think the prayer in general worked just by releasing out all of the pent up emotion into the universe. So I would start there with an honest prayer, releasing everything that pains you, weighs on you out there, put it out there into the universe. If you have to say it aloud, that may even be more beneficial. Number two would be to meditate. Now, once again, it doesn't have to look any kind of way. It doesn't have to feel any kind of way. You don't have to follow any sort of procedure. Prayer is speech. Prayer is talking to God, talking to the universe, talking to the divinity. And meditation is taking the time to quiet yourself, be silent, be still, and listen. And in that silence, a lot of the answers that you're looking for will come. I think it's important to add pranayama to this breath. One of the simple solutions that people really don't realize is breathing, just the way that you breathe, even when you're not practicing. Making sure that you're breathing in through your nose and out through your nose primarily is highly beneficial. Filling up your belly and your chest fully and deeply. And that oxygenating of your system will make you feel so much better on a scientific level that you'll begin to feel some spiritual truths as well. There's millions of different breathwork videos for beginners and beyond, and you could just pick and choose from there. I also would like to add something that I think is important that may not be talked about. and that is the elements of cold and fire. Now, you can really shake up your, if you're feeling stagnant, if you're feeling disconnected, if you're not feeling at your best, you can really shake up that feeling with some cold, cold shower, a cold plunge. If you live in a cold climate, going outside with minimal clothes on, just for a few minutes, taking some deep breaths, getting in that cold, you'd be surprised what it's able to do for you. In fact, it's scientifically proven the cold showers to increase testosterone, increase dopamine, help drain your lymphatic system, and more. So that's something that I absolutely do, and I add that with the sun, the fire, getting into the sun, getting the vitamin D and all the nutrients that it provides. Also, getting in the sauna, sweating out all the heavy metals, the toxins, and the poisons that are in our diet, our water, our air, and those things are weighing us down more than we really think. So it would be that, the sauna, and then obviously I think one that's more known is yoga, stretching, and physical exercise. There's nothing better to really get the body going, activate all your muscles, tendons, ligaments, and joints, as well as the energy within, with some good yoga or intense physical exercise.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Robert. And I also remember you said there was a time you just got, all your attention. You just, doing the talking through prayer. And that's what also brought this question I want to bring to the table, Mr. Robert. Some people probably, also personally believe or also probably used to doubt if, spiritual practices can really help them when it comes to the time they are feeling a lot of trauma, they are having a lot of anxiety, they could be having a lot of stress, even to the point of depression. I would like to ask Mr. Roberts, do you think spiritual practices aid in reducing stress, anxiety, or even depression, sir?
Yeah, I actually think that it is the number one tool that we need to be using to manage our emotions. And like you said, the negative ones, the anxiety, the stress, the trauma, or the things that could lead to depression. If we're able to implement a strong foundation, a routine, then we are able to combat these negative emotions effectively. Now, a lot of times when we wake up in the morning, we have that morning battle. A lot of us can tend to go towards negativity or thinking about the past, pain and hurt, or maybe we're going into the future, into the realm of anxiety. What might happen? What will happen? When will it happen? And all of these feelings can take the energy and drain us and leave us living in a world that is not the present moment. And that is where our true power lies, right there in the present. So if we're able to wake up and instead of going right to those negative emotions and feelings, ground ourselves in these spiritual practices, these spiritual truths, these ancient techniques that have been used for thousands of years, even if it's something very simple. You don't have to be a yogi and be able to bend yourself up like a pretzel. You don't have to be able to meditate for hours on end. You don't have to be in intense physical condition. We just have to find something that works, spend a couple minutes doing it. And if it is prayer, meditation, and breath, it's like I talk to my wife and she's very busy. And I say, babe, if you just meditate for a minute, you do yoga for 3 minutes, and you breathe for a minute or two, you're talking about 5 or 10 minutes of your day. That if you can dedicate this time to these spiritual practices, it will enhance the rest of your day, tenfold. So we really have to love ourselves. We have to understand that there's no magic pill. You can't run off to the doctor. They're going to give you something that's going to give you more problems. You can't go to the store. You can't buy it. Those supplements may help, but ultimately they're going to leave you dependent or feeling empty at the end. We have to take the initiative. We have to love ourselves enough to put in that work for ourselves. And if we do that, we will see our anxiety, depression, and everything else that you mentioned decrease considerably.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. And I also know, as a coach, you also have some personal stories that you've experienced when it comes to spirituality prayer and all those stuff, sir. I would like to ask if you could share a personal story of transformation that came through spirituality, sir.
Hmm. Well, I don't know how long your podcast is. We could be here all day. No, I'm just kidding. I'll give you the gist. If you want me to be brutally honest, truly honest with you and with your audience, and I have to be honest, I have a hard time doing anything else. When you start practicing these spiritual practices that we are talking about, you find that honesty is part of it, just being honest, open, true, and authentic. And I spent many years in prison, sir. I was just a messed up kid. I was very much into fighting and drinking and drugging and gambling and going out and partying and all these different things. And I couldn't manage my emotions. I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to be doing. My life was led by my compulsions, by my impulses, and I just led a very unconscious life, vice driven life. I was addicted to everything, women, gambling, drugs, and it just never stopped until I went to prison. And when I went to prison, I had an epiphany when I realized how utterly alone that I was. Now, although I was alone, it didn't make me sad because I now knew that I was the only one that was going to save me. I was the only one that was going to fix my life. And when I had that realization, I took some responsibility. I took responsibility for what I've been doing and where I was at. I realized it was all my fault. When I realized that, it was another epiphany. Well, if I did this, then I could change this power and create something better. I can get myself out of this situation. I know I'm the only one that could do it. Now I know that it was my fault that I had a bad life. Well, let's make it my fault that I have a good life. And with that change of perspective, I had now willingness to change, and openness to receive new information. Maybe I had been doing things wrong and there was better way to do it out there. When I had that openness of the mind, things that I never would have considered before, like prayer, meditation, breath work, yoga, and all these different things that actually changed my life, I was open to them now. And through that process, right there in prison, I totally changed my life. I got out. I started an amazing family. I started a career that I left in 4 years, retired, semi retired now, full time podcaster, small business owner. I've traveled all over the world. I have three beautiful children and an amazing wife. I'm financially comfortable. I'm emotionally stable. I'm spiritually sound. I'm physically fit. And it just doesn't get no better than that, man. And that's why I'm here. That's why I do Creating Greatness podcast. And that's why I coach to share these major revelations that I've had in my life.
That's very, very lovely. I'm so happy that you came back strong and you are just happy and you are peaceful today. That's just the good news. Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. And some might still feel lost. Some might still be in this position or situation where their life could be, I would just say, a zigzag, and where they could feel really, really disconnected to their spirituality. What advice would you think you can give to someone who feels lost or disconnected when it comes to spirituality, sir?
Well, I think the first thing I find when people have that feeling, when people are just lost, I admit that I was confused about life. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And therefore, I just spent my time with nonsense. And I find a lot of people that feel that way, it's because they're doing something. We really have to take a deep look at ourselves, at our behaviors, at our thoughts, at what we're consuming. And what I mean by that is like, what are you eating? What are you drinking? Who are you spending time around? What are you watching on TV? What are you listening to? Because you may not think that those things affect you. But when I was spending all my days listening to gangster rap music and watching uber violent movies on TV, hanging around a crowd that I thought was cool because they had gold chains and women and big rims on their cars. Little did I know I was poisoning my spirit. So once again, I always will go back to isolation. You have to detach yourself from the people you're around, the substances that you're using, some of the toxic processed food that we're eating and drinking. You need to get out into the sun, get some sunlight, get in nature, get by yourself and isolate, accept the responsibility for your current circumstances. And that doesn't say that no one else played a part. And if you're in a bad spot, if you're lost, if you're confused, if you're broke, that someone else didn't play a part in that. Maybe they did, but ultimately you are the savior. You are the only one who's going to pick yourself up and get after it again. So you have to isolate yourself. You have to accept responsibility. That responsibility may give you that same willingness that I had. And with that willingness, it provides like motivation and openness because now you know that you could do something differently and maybe you will. And just start the work, man. Start the work like we talked about. Do the prayer. Doesn't matter to who. Meditate. It doesn't matter how. Breathe in through your nose. Fill up your belly and your lungs. Do it several times a day. Get out in nature. Get your bare feet in the grass and ground and connect to the universe. Put your hands in the soil. Feel the world and life around you. Ground yourself in the present. Let go of what others think of you. They're not helping your life. They're not doing anything for you. So why are we worrying about their opinion? And once you do a little bit of those things, you're going to put yourself in a space where your own intuition is going to kick in. And when your own intuition kicks in, you're going to know what to do. You're not going to need a coach. You're not going to need to go, read a book or listen to a podcast. Oh, although we hope you do listen to this one and mine. But once you set that foundation, you set that structure in your life, it will begin to open up your own intuition. And then you can just follow that from there.
Thank you so much for this advice, Mr. Robert. And lastly, Mr. Roberts, there's a question I normally ask, sir. From the ancestors, from the forefathers, there are a lot of things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing would be, sir?
I would bring Jesus. I want to talk to Jesus. But I mean, there are many figures throughout time that would just be like so amazing to talk to, between Muhammad Gandhi
Mm,
and Buddha and Jesus. And then there's different figures that would be ultimately interesting to talk to. But if you can only pick one, I got to go with Jesus. I got some questions to ask. And whether you believe in Christianity or Jesus or any of the other, you know, basic religions that you've seen and heard out there, the world needs a little Jesus. And what I mean by that is the world needs more loving, more kind, more peace. And, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I can tell that's why you're doing what you're doing. And we certainly appreciate it, brother.
yes, we definitely appreciate it, Mr. Roberts. Jesus Christ is still the man that we know that brings peace. It brings love. He wants us to love each other. He wants us to care for each other. That is why we hope, in the coming future, we'll be lucky to have him. Probably we could be able to, speak to him or angle, but we don't know what the future will say. But we hope for the better in the coming future. I want to personally thank you, Mr. Roberts, on speaking on this spirituality. A lot of people are disconnected today, and they need to just understand that whether you want to be successful or you want to just live life of happiness and peace, you have to be healthy spiritually and you have to be healthy physically. Thank you so much, Mr. Robert.
Man, thank you. I couldn't have said it better there at the end. Perfect. And thank you guys for listening. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was great.
All right, so bye bye.
Take care, brother.